Welcome back to another episode of the Course Creation Incubator. I'm your host, Gina Onativia, your course coach and digital strategist, here to get you stoked for your course creation and your course marketing. And if you're anything like me, you might be feeling a little bit of stress with your course creation or your marketing or your business right now. I talked a few weeks ago about how I took myself completely down for a week. I was so darn stressed. So I have been looking to make some changes in my day-to-day. And when I'm feeling overwhelmed or some stress, I have a few different resources I turn to. I work with my business coach, and I've got some virtual mentors as well. Ranbir Puar is one of those people I go to on Instagram. I check out her posts or her stories, I read or listen to them, and I immediately feel more calm. I feel less stressed. Ranbir is a TEDx speaker, a life coach, a writer, a podcaster. She's got incredible content. And what I love about her, well, there's many things, but she brings this pragmatic approach to spirituality. She talks about breathing and meditation, etc., in a way that it takes the intimidation out of it. And I wanted to have her on so we could all take a little bit of stress out of our course creation process. So let's listen into Ranbir so we can learn how to manage our stress and our energy. Ranbir, welcome to the podcast. I've been wanting to have you on for a while, so thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
So I talked about in the intro that it was kind of a rough fall for me, and I was looking through your Instagram posts, and honestly, you're a mindset mentor for me, and thinking you help ground me. And when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when I'm feeling stressed, you bring me back to a centered place. And I'm just wondering, what advice do you have for our course creators listening right now who might be feeling this sense of overwhelm or stress that can sometimes come with creating your course?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. Because to know that the work is landing and helpful means a great deal. I think all of us creators really appreciate hearing that feedback. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Because with the internet, you don't get to see people in person, so you don't really know the impact. So thank you for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
So I think for the feeling of overwhelm, if we really kind of dissect the idea of overwhelm, most of it is perceived stress. And so overwhelm is an extension of what I believe is an extension of creativity. So instead of looking at your overwhelm as something bad, you could technically look at it as something good. And what I mean by that is to consider it as access to the muse. So it just means you have a lot of juice in the tank. So instead of trying to say, I don't want to feel all those ideas or all these to-dos or all these kind of things, if you stop and look at the core and the root of what it is, it's actually an excess of energy. And so that creates all these ideas that go on in our heads. And then we're like, I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to do this. And really, if you just go back and pare back and look at the root of what it is and start working from there. So if you look at it as an excess of energy, then what you can do is start to understand how you're spending your time, thinking, doing all of that kind of stuff. So what works really well to break down overwhelm is to do audits. I think one of the first things that drew me to you was the Post-its.
Yes, the Post-it exercise. Yes,
love it. Love that. So in many ways, it's like that. And if you wanted to do it on Post-its, if you are a stationary nerd like me, you could actually just keep it with you and audit. What are the thoughts you're thinking? What are the thoughts that trigger you to feel like you want to shut down? And what you're going to find is if you do this and you do this honestly, is that most of those thoughts are tied to your inner critic's voice. And that will be, your inner critic will be telling you, you shouldn't be driving this bus. Somebody more capable, somebody more qualified, somebody, it goes on and on and on. So the audit allows you to really look at the dialogue, because no one else can get inside that head and do that audit for you. No one can hear that subconscious story or program that's running. And the beautiful part about having a conscious and subconscious mind, as soon as you become aware of something, your conscious mind is a powerhouse. It can go to work for you with all the tools and resources you have to create change. So
Okay.
if you, yeah, so if you think of overwhelm as just an opportunity to transmute energy, I think it helps a little bit, or at least
Okay.
it's helped me.
Yeah, I love this. There's so much to unpack here. Like I love it's an excess of energy. Like I've never thought about that before. And it's you know, what we used to say with Tony Robbins, it's a quality problem almost, right? Like there's like embrace it. You've got a lot going on. You have a lot of opportunities to serve or to make change happen or to put what you love to do into service, right? So maybe if we looked at it like kind of turned it around is what I'm hearing, right? Into it's a quality challenge. And then I love the audit idea. I'm a big fan of the post-its, you know that. So if I'm writing down the thoughts that I'm thinking, right, and I'm doing this exercise, then what's maybe like the next step? Like, and I'm recognizing that there's the inner critic. He's showing up here. She's showing up there. How can I, it's not battle's not the right word, but then what's the next step with that to kind of move through it or move past that?
Well, for me, I think the best way to do that is to consider the fact that, so if we looked at it from an energy standpoint, or you have excess energy, it's one of the ways I transformed anxiety for myself. You know, of the energy of a wild horse. You know, left untamed, I'll destroy anything in me and around me. But if I can harness it and focus it and transmute it into creation, it's a very, very different story. You know, the wild horse that can be tamed always wins the race. So if you look at it from that analogy, and I say to myself, well, maybe the average person has 200 units of energy a day, or let's say 100 units of energy a day, and I have 200.
Yes.
So the audit allows me to see, you know, okay, am I going to spin my wheels worrying about competition? Maybe that's worth 50 energy dollars.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so you have to ask yourself, so if I give you $200 to start your day and you're giving 50 to a complete stranger, you know, there's nothing like money to make people snap out of it. Like the idea of using it, like auditing yourself as though those are energy dollars or financially, would you go give that person $50? If not, then how can you change that thought pattern to make it an investment versus a really bad debt?
Okay, I freaking love this idea and I'm going to use it myself because I was grappling with a new client that was taking a lot of energy and I'm like, this is an unequal amount of energy, right? Like it's unbalanced, right? And it's all in my head. And then if I thought about this, like if I had $200 and 75 of it was going towards this client, then there's something amiss here. And where, like to your point, where would I want to invest that energy instead? Or how do I need to manage my own energy or my own self to change it up? Is
100%.
that okay?
100%.
Got it.
Yeah, because would you go, if you only had $200 that day?
Yes.
Would you give her 75?
Hell no, right?
Right?
Yeah, there's no way I would do that. But you're right. You put it in terms of money and
people get it.
And people get it. Yeah, it's like instant.
Yeah, because it's really hard, that the idea of your thoughts or your feelings and all of that, like it's hard to make it concrete because our brains are so powerful. We can play all sorts of games there, but a transaction is very easy to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, like, I think I tell stories in my head too. It's really not about it's not about the client. It's about me. Right. And how I'm reacting or how I'm responding and how again, I'm managing my emotions around it. It's not about the client.
No, and that's the double-edged sword of creativity, right? If you look at the energy of a creative, we have way more. And if you don't use it, it uses you.
Ooh, like it. Love that.
Okay. But I know that from lived experience. So if you're listening to this,
yes,
I've lived and transmuted and transformed.
Okay, I love that. When did you kind of have this aha first?
Well, I think sometimes, the old saying, we teach what we need to learn.
Yeah.
And about 25 years ago, I met a fellow and anyway, it turns out it's my husband, but he's a professional engineer. So he's a scientist. He has his master's in science. And then there's me, who's creative, and I am very analytical, but it was that in that relationship of the push and pull of the sciences and creativity and finding a balance that was healthy for me and our relationship and all of that. So he's really been a great mentor for me and pushing me outside of my, lived beliefs to create a new reality that matches my factory settings, not the settings I got through the programs of childhood.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's great. I'd love to hear that. You have a beautiful family. Let's talk about some of those daily practices though, too, because let's talk about how we don't get to the place. Maybe we can prevent getting to those feelings of stress and overwhelm. And I know I've got work to do in terms of some daily practices. Like my business coach has been working with me for some really simple breathing exercises. I love when you post things that we can say to ourselves and you have those posts that build. I always do those. Talk to me about some of those daily practices that we can start, like even if we're just starting out, if we're just beginning.
Absolutely. And I think if you're starting out, don't try to take all of them on.
Yes.
So,
One at a
so
time,
I think if your inner critic is driving the bus, the first thing we want to do is say, I have to do all 6 or 7 of these, or I'm not enough.
Oof.
And, that's just not okay. So really simple technique that I teach is just actually having a question pop up in your phone or calendar every day. And you could ask yourself, why is my life so great? And the difference between that and an affirmation is that it actually is being sourced out of reality. And so, and it's better than a gratitude list, because a gratitude list can feel robotic.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if you have to actually answer the question, why is my life so great? Or why am I so prepared for this call? Or like those kinds of questions that lead you to answer with realistic answers, but not fluffy answers.
Yes. Like that.
I'm grateful for the sun. I mean, if you're Oprah.
Right.
Right. You got $1 billion in the bank and somebody's cooking your meals and getting you worked up for your workout. Like that's different.
Yeah.
But start going really simple. The KISS rule, keep it simple.
Yes. Like it.
And the one thing, especially in our society, and especially as people who are trying to juggle a lot of things, we miss the most basic things. So if you looked at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right at the bottom of the base is those physiological needs.
Yep.
And so if you had to start somewhere and you wanted to convince your subconscious mind that you're worth it, then start with those basics: movement, sleep, and nourishment. And so if you just pick one of those things to start with, then you start building what I call self-trust and self-like. Forget the self-love stuff, because you're not going to love something you don't like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So the way we build self-like is to build self-trust. And the way we build self-trust is to go after the primal needs. Don't start worrying about the meditative practice until you've got the basics down, which is, what are you eating?
Yeah.
How are you moving? And how are you sleeping? And when it comes to sleep, I think it's the Dalai Lama that said sleep is your best meditation. It's when your brain has a chance to do its sort of organizational duties. Putting memories away, compiling data, helping you get rid of thoughts that no longer serve you. But the one problem that we have as energetic beings is we'll go to sleep and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I went to bed too late, or
right.
I hope
we fret.
We fret. And what you can do instead of that is, and I think I heard this, it's not my own original idea, but
Yeah.
think of the thoughts you go to bed as your slow cooking your meal for the next day.
Okay. I like that.
And so if you say to yourself, I'm going to wake up rested and refreshed. Yeah, your brain's going to say you're a BSer and you're going to wake up tired. But if you can practice that enough, going to bed and just telling yourself and instructing your brain, so maybe you won't say, I'm going to wake up rested and refreshed. Maybe you say to your brain, help me sleep as deeply as possible, so I wake up rested and refreshed.
Okay, I like that. And then,
sorry. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, I would love to know what your before bed ritual is. So I try to get the thoughts out. I have index cards and a pen next to my bed, and I try to take out those slow cooker thoughts before I go to sleep. And I have my tea, my calm tea. I talk about. And what's funny is my husband fell asleep early last night, and I was like, oh well, I guess I'll just go to sleep then. And I didn't do my tea. I didn't write down my thoughts. So what's happening? I just lie there, right? I'm just lying there. Like, what's happening? What's happening? And I'm like, okay, Gina, get up, make your damn tea, write down your thoughts. Like, your body knows it's not ready yet. Like, it's not ready for sleep. So
yeah, that's part of the ritual, right?
Yes. Like, what does your ritual look like?
Well, my ritual is, I don't have one, because I feel like I've trained myself to have a new core belief that my sleep does not have to be earned. It's a primal need.
Oh.
And so it's not something I need to earn. So I've shifted that, and I made that decision about 15 years ago or so. And so when I just told myself, it's not something, because I was so deeply insecure. My self-sabotage was out of control based on the type of childhood I had. So I felt like I had to earn everything, prove myself, and blah, 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 blah. So as soon as I dissected that and understood I don't have to do anything to be able to sleep, I began sleeping very, very well. I also have clients that struggle with this. So I created, actually, I don't think I've ever talked to you about this, but I have a sleep spray, which is a dermal spray, which helps you train your brain how to get back to sleep. And I can tell you about that another time, but it's all very,
to that in the
I'll mail you.
I didn't know you had that. Yes.
I know, because I'll mail you some so you can try it out. But so it's a dermal spray, and it doesn't have a scent or anything. So it's designed to give your body what it needs nutritionally on the skin. And so it doesn't have to go through your leaky gut, and it helps you go to a deep, deep sleep.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'll mail it to you, and I'll get your address after.
Okay.
But a couple of cool things you can do before bedtime to help you ease yourself into the idea that you don't have to earn sleep is I do this with a lot of people, is just get a down dog. So, so when you're doing a down dog yoga pose, the head is pointed down. And so you can imagine that all the stress you have, because we're energy bodies, imagine that all the stress you have is leaving through the top of your head into the earth, because the earth can handle it. And if you can create that visualization in your mind, the earth can recycle that stuff and create something new, and blah, blah, blah. So I start with a down dog if I'm having any of those days, and allow any sort of negative or chit-chatty thoughts to go. And then when I feel like it's kind of cleansed, like my brain feels lighter, then I do an up dog and open my heart. And that's my indicator of I'm ready to receive rest, ideas. So that's the practice there.
Okay.
That helps. The other things that work really well, obviously, are making sure you're not on your screen the first, at least 2 hours before bed. And if you are, to use blue light blockers. So any of those kind of biohacking things you can try.
Yes. That's great.
Yeah. So sorry, went on and on there.
No, that's great. I think those are all great tips. And I really guard my sleep closely too, because I do know how important it is. And so if you're listening right now, like, I love what you're saying, think about those 3 prongs, right? Your nourishment, your sleep, and the movement. And then I love the question that you asked too, that programming your phone. If I wanted to, and I'm trying to take baby steps with meditating right now too. And I mean, baby step me, Ranbir, where can you start me?
I'm a 20-time Insights timer staff pick. So there's a couple of guided visualizations you can start with.
Okay, great.
And so guided visualizations are relaxation techniques that can help you take steps towards the meditative practice. The saying is that all meditation is relaxation, but not all relaxation is meditation. So that's one step towards it. So you could listen to something guided that helps you, change gears and not be driving in fifth gear all the time.
Okay, great. Let's link to those in the show notes as well then. So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And so I can give you those links. The other thing about the meditative practice is that for me, it's an ancestral practice, and I created a way to teach people how to meditate that doesn't feel foreign and it's believable. So you get the buy-in of the conscious mind, and you can do silent meditation without any thing that feels uncomfortable or untrue to you. So I took kind of the best of the East and blended it with what I know of the West and created a form of practice that way to teach. But generally speaking, it's that idea of trying to create the gap between your thoughts. That's what meditation really, truly is. So if you can't sit still and listen to an audio track or sit still in silence or anything like that, then movement can be meditative. So ideally you want to get in that gap between your thoughts. You want to slow down the thoughts so there's not such a tight squeeze on the conscious mind. So your big tank, your subconscious mind, can come in and support you, because that's really truly what we want out of the meditative practice, is to be able to calm. The Buddhists say it's the monkey mind, the conscious mind. And I say, let's give the monkey a banana and say, okay, you stay busy over here while I kind of, access my treasure in my subconscious. And so I think the best way to develop a meditative practice is to get a coach or to get some help, because we'll always find excuses for not doing it. So it's one of those things that I do recommend. Either you do a guided visualizations or you get someone to teach you how to meditate authentically.
And what's great is we have a coach right here, so who can help us with this practice. So if you're interested, you're going to check out the show notes and you're going to take action on that. And I love what you're saying, that movement can be meditative, because I'm one of those people who can't sit still. I drive my husband nuts. He yells at me every weekend. He doesn't yell at me, but he's like, my entire family, I talk about this on the podcast, we can't sit. Yanativias are not sitters. So I would love to I think I can start incorporating it more in the movement, maybe on runs and things like that. And I love what you're saying about gap between thoughts.
Because when you're running, my husband says the same thing about me, if it makes you feel any better.
It does, actually. Thank you.
And I don't want to get canceled for saying this, but he hasn't said it in a long time, but in the beginning, when we first met, he used to call me Rain Man, because I kind of like thought, like everyone, like boom, 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 boom. So I've calmed that tendency down significantly, because I haven't heard the term in a long time, actually. So
that's great.
Yeah. But the cool thing about movement and the meditative state is that, if you're not sure where to start, just try to notice things when you're moving or walking or running. And so it might be it sounds really trite, a bird or, the sun or something. When you're moving, just try to take your thoughts to like one or two things that you can keep noticing. And it puts you in that kind of trance-like state. So don't go and say, I'm going to look at a rock now and a leaf now and a this.
Well, I try to notice things about my body. Does that count?
No, absolutely.
Okay, good. So I listen to the Nike running app, and the Coach Bennett's really great about, okay, listen to your breath work right now. How are you feeling? How do your feet feel? He works your way up the body in some of these, some of the runs. Sure. So I try to do that.
Yeah, as long as your attention isn't on thinking and is on feeling, it's all good.
Okay, good. Okay, so attention on feeling.
If you're doing a practice like that, like the Nike app, and he's getting you to put your attention on your feet, you don't want to just only think about your feet. You want to feel your feet.
How do my feet feel? Okay, got it. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Like allow yourself to go into the foot versus just thinking about it. So our thoughts are electric and our feelings are magnetic, and it creates our electromagnetic field. So if you can have that thought and then feel the feet it amplifies your electromagnetic field. Like it just creates that thing that all the law of attraction people want to have, right? Like makes you bigger.
Ooh. All right. I'm going to try that next run. I'm going to try it and I'm going to let you know.
Let me know. I can't wait.
I love talking to you. I could talk to you all day. Is there one piece that you want to leave us with before we wrap?
Well, I think that most people that want to be of service in the world are, you want to create value. And the way you create value for other people is always starting with yourself and really auditing how you value yourself, your inner thoughts, your actions, how you execute your meals and your movement. So go really back to basics, because the way that we allow our inner critic to drive the bus is that we go way up on that sort of triangle or hierarchy of needs, and we try to focus way up there without focusing on the basics. And you want to have a solid foundation. I am married to a geotechnical engineer, and if we function in first principles in our house, it has to be repeatable, and it should apply to everybody. So if you take that and extend it out to the human experience and course creators in particular, if you were to create if you were to build a house on a foundation that was cracked and something came along, strong wind and earthquake, that the house you build would come down.
Right.
But if you take the time and really anchor your foundation in those primal needs first, and then slowly build your way up, you are going to have a rock solid self. And then your courses are an extension of the self, and you will be able to serve people like you've never been able to do before.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for coming on. Oh, we already talked about a few places where we're going to link for you, but what's the best place to continue to follow you and get your content?
Well, I publish a fair bit on the internet. So I'm kidding. On the socials, on the interwebs. On the interwebs, I do, daily posts on Instagram. So my handle is Ranbir_Puar, and that'll be, I'm sure, in the show notes, because I wouldn't expect you to spell that. And Pinterest is really active for me as well. So we spend a lot of time on Pinterest, and I'm going to be launching an app soon with the Today I Practice cards that you mentioned earlier, the mind habits and life strategy cards. Yeah. So that app is just in draft right now. I can't wait to share that as well. So I'm super excited about that.
Okay. That's exciting. You have to let me know when that comes out so I can tell everybody.
I can't wait. I'll actually ask you to be one of the testers if you don't mind.
Yes, please. Yes. Okay. I would love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the website is pureatma.com, and that'll take you to my work.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll list all of that in the show notes. Thanks again for being on. You're going to have to come back, because I just want you to continue to coach me from a mental fitness point of view. And I think you have so much more to share, and I know you do. So I know we had a short time, but thank you for being on.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just really excited to connect with you in this way and grateful to be here. Thank you.
Think of overwhelm as just an opportunity to transmute energy. I mean, what a great way to think about that, right? Takes me immediately to an empowering place versus a negative, I'm an overwhelm, oh, woe is me place. And I think I'm going to be managing my energy dollars a little differently from now on, now that I've had this conversation. Please follow Ranbir on all of our channels. I'll list those in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed our chat. Will you let me know what you got from this episode? Because I've got at least a dozen different things that I want to remember written down on Post-it notes. And I would love to hear what impacted you as well at Course Creation Boutique on Instagram. Next week, I'm going to talk about customer journey and how to begin with the end in mind. Please rate and review this episode, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, and subscribe. Until next week, go create. Be you and be brilliant, and get it done.